Listen up, because before you even think about buying an AI trading bot on MT5, we need to talk about a pretty harsh reality. The term AI has been completely hijacked in the trading marketplace. Honestly, it's become one of the absolute easiest ways to trigger greed, dress up a totally normal, rigid robot to look super advanced, and ultimately sell you absolute garbage. So today, we are tearing down that fantasy. We're going to walk through the exact criteria you need to separate actual artificial intelligence from some seriously dangerous marketing traps. Let's get into it.
Now, if you've been burned by this before, I want you to hear this loud and clear. It is not your fault. If you got pulled into automated trading because of all the hype around AI or gold or MetaTrader 5, that is completely normal. The entire system is literally designed to deceive you. You're up against sellers who are absolute experts at exploiting that completely natural desire for financial freedom. Honestly, the very first bot most beginners buy usually isn't the one that makes them profitable. It's the one that delivers a really harsh, really expensive lesson.
You see, the core problem here isn't that you want to automate your trading. Seeking an edge is exactly what you should be doing. The real danger is that you're probably judging these tools based on fantasy metrics instead of survival metrics. You're out there looking for a magic pill, and scammers are more than happy to sell you a placebo. But today, we fix that. We're upgrading your criteria from a beginner just looking for a quick shortcut to a serious trader demanding a resilient, real-world system.
To do that, we first need to break down the anatomy of deception. Let's look at the major marketing red flags.
Okay, to understand the enemy, we have to look at the ultimate trap. You know the one, that massive neon 98% win rate splashed across a sales page. Most people see that and think, wow, I've found the Holy Grail. But here's the reality. A 98% win rate usually just means you're winning pennies 98 times. And then, on trade 99, an uncontrolled martingale or grid strategy refuses to take a loss, just keeps doubling down, and boom, it blows your entire account to zero. High win rates almost always hide fatal risk.
So let's permanently activate your BS detector right now. If the seller's main argument is a perfect backtest, run. If there is absolutely zero live market proof, run. If they're only flashing cropped profit screenshots on their phone without showing you the massive drawdown they had to suffer to get there, yeah, that's a trap. If they never ever discuss bad phases or risk and only use fantasy language about passive income, listen to me, they are not selling AI, they are selling dopamine.
And that brings us to the biggest illusion of them all, the perfect backtest. An absolutely beautiful, flawless MT5 simulation is so incredibly dangerous. It is way too easy to over-optimize a robot to pass data. Developers literally cherry-pick the exact parameters that would have worked perfectly last year purely to give you a gorgeous chart today. But remember, that backtest is designed to sell a product. It is absolutely not designed to survive the unpredictable, messy reality of tomorrow's market.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. In the vast majority of cases on the marketplace right now, the letters AI are just marketing paint. That's all it is. Developers take old-school, rigid, rule-based systems that will easily shatter the second market conditions change, and they just slap the word artificial intelligence on the title. They know that the second people hear AI, they tend to turn off their critical thinking.
So let's pop the hood. Let's look at the actual anatomy of how these fake bots operate compared to the real deal.
We need to know what happens when the market gets ugly. Here is the stark contrast. Fake AI operates on totally rigid if-then rules. If the market drops, it just stubbornly buys more, averaging down, just hoping for a reversal. It relies entirely on hope and deep pockets. Real AI, completely different. It dynamically reads live market data. It actually uses language models like Gemini or ChatGPT to filter scenarios in real time. It adapts its risk. And honestly, perhaps the ultimate sign of true intelligence. A real AI can look at a chaotic market and decide to just sit on its hands and not trade at all.
There's this terrifying imbalance out there. You have this sky-high marketing profit designed purely to catch your eye, but right behind that is a massive iceberg of hidden risk, often risking the entire account just to scrape by with a few pennies. Because of that insane imbalance, the actual long-term survival rate in a real live market is practically zero.
All right, so how do we actually judge the real deal? What are the serious criteria we should be looking for?
It is time to shift your identity to a serious trader. And serious traders, we replace magic with an actual analytical workflow before we ever let a piece of software touch our capital. Step 1. The system absolutely must receive real-time data and news.
Step 2, it needs to use a model to filter those scenarios, like actually understanding the difference between a normal market dip and a major news event crash. Step 3, it has to adapt the risk dynamically. And step 4, like we just talked about, it actively decides when to do nothing.
So throw out the old way of doing things. Here is your new ultimate checklist. Stop looking at those profit screenshots. Demand to see live behavior. Stop trusting the so-called perfect backtest. Ask to see how the bot behaves during its worst phases and how deep that drawdown actually gets. Don't look for the easiest setup. Look for deep, real risk control. And finally, stop buying vague promises. Look at the actual mechanics behind the AI.
And speaking of mechanics, here's a fascinating little detail that those fake sellers will literally never mention. True AI models, like when a system actually queries ChatGPT-4 or Gemini for market analysis, well, those queries have API costs. Think about it. If you're starting out with a smaller $1,000 account, but your quote-unquote AI bot is making so many constant API calls that it's racking up $100 a month in fees, you are starting with a massive mathematical handicap right out of the gate. Real AI tools have to balance the frequency of their analysis with the reality of your specific account size.
Which leads us perfectly into the absolute, undeniable truth of forward testing.
Now, you might be wondering why go through all the trouble and honestly, the risk of forward testing a bot live in front of everyone. Why not just show a beautiful backtest and easily sell the product like everyone else?
Well, we test live to show reality, not a fantasy. A live stream of a bot trading absolutely destroys the deception of a backtest. It forces you to watch the waiting. It forces you to see the mistakes. It forces you to experience the bad phases and the drawdown in real time. That transparency is the only thing that builds actual trust. It proves how the system reacts when it actually takes a hit.
And that transparent reality is the exact philosophy behind tools like DoItTrading AI. Notice the positioning here. We are not presenting this as guaranteed passive income. It is definitely not being sold to you as some magic pill that just magically removes all risk. It is positioned as a serious AI tool that is being tested completely, 100% transparently.
The entire focus here is on reality. AlphaPulse AI is built from the ground up around live forward testing. It actually sends data to models like Gemini and ChatGPT to make decisions. You get to watch the real market reaction, you get to see the waiting times, and yeah, you get to see the mistakes, because watching how an AI manages risk during a losing streak, that is the ultimate education for a trader. It shows you that the AI layer is actually doing something, actually adding real value.
Let's summarize the difference one more time just to be crystal clear. The fantasy is guaranteed profit, zero risk, and perfect stress-free execution. Let me save you some time. That doesn't exist. The reality of serious automated trading is rigorous testing, observing real behavior, strictly managed risk, and really accepting that there will be bad, flat phases that might last for weeks. AI doesn't remove risk, it manages it intelligently.
But here is perhaps the harshest truth of all. A serious, well-built AI can absolutely survive the market. It can survive inflation data, wild news spikes, volatile trends. But it cannot survive you. If you hit a totally normal bad phase, panic, start interfering with the strategy, manually changing the parameters, or turning it off right before it recovers, you will fail. The system must survive your psychology, which means you have to manage your expectations.
So here is your action plan. If you are just starting out, make sure you've caught the earlier parts of this explainer series to understand the absolute basics of MT5 and how expert advisors are actually installed. Stop trusting perfect backtests immediately. Learn to judge real AI by asking if it actually filters data and manages risk. Follow transparent live streams like the AlphaPulse AI forward test to see how these tools really behave in the wild. Demand transparency and expect bad phases. Ultimately, the choice is entirely yours. The marketplace is going to keep trying to sell you magic and dopamine hits, but you now have the criteria to see right through the illusion. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. When you make your next move, will the tool you choose actually survive the real market, or is it just going to teach you another incredibly expensive lesson? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Stay sharp and trade smart.